Oh, I got a great idea. Let's tell stories.
Okay, you start.
Sounds amazing.
No, I tell
Let's
stories
go.
all the time.
Stories about what?
Most embarrassing moments ever.
You're just trying to get us all to tell us, and then you won't say it. I was a weird kid. I don't know what was wrong with me. Oh, dude, I wish I could go back and tell myself, what are you doing with your life? Why are you dressing like this? Why are you acting like this?
I was kind of a weird kid too.
You know that's
Wait,
even weirder that if you explain the thing,
And I
like
think I was
the way
like
you said
11
it.
as well. No, it's
Or-
not what you guys think. Oh my, the one what I said, everyone's like,
His teachers essentially thought he was a bit goofier than he really was. Because the way he was acting, okay? It had nothing to do with any way that somebody would dress, okay?
Yeah.
Alright, here we go. So, when I was growing up, okay, I was in middle school.
back in 1962. Go on.
You know what? No story for you guys.
No, I was kidding. Go on,
No.
go on.
You don't want a story? You can tell a story, you
No,
fatty.
go on.
So when I was growing up, I was in middle school, okay? And when I was in middle school, I played in bands, okay? You had to be in either band or choir, and I was like, I'll pick band, right? Well, anyway, I was in percussion. So in percussion, we had a lot of stuff to carry. Every day, they made us carry home the bell set, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically a xylophone, but made out of metal. And we also had to carry home our drum, our snare drum, which was percussion. It was a snare drum. Anyway, both these band instruments are much heavier than your typical band instruments. That, like, you're carrying a flute, and I'm over here carrying like 50 pounds of instruments. Anyway, long story short, as I was walking out of band, I also had my backpack with me. And as I approached this little hill, there's this little hill leading up to where the buses were, right? And it had been raining a lot that day. And so normally I would just run up the hill to take like a shortcut. It cut like a couple seconds off at most to get to my bus. Because my bus was all the way at one end of the lot. And I was all the way on the other. So I would cut across this little hill. So it was like an L in the sidewalk, and I basically cut through the grass. Anyway, long story short, it had been raining a lot, and the hill was more mud than grass. So I start to climb it. Well, I get about halfway up, when all of a sudden I realize, you know what? Probably not the best idea. I'm going to turn around and head back down. Well, that is when I slipped, right as that thought crossed through my head. And I slipped and I fell in the mud and literally just sank into it. And I was freaking out. All the students on the sidewalk are standing there watching me. People are laughing. I was so embarrassed. But so I'm like, okay, I can still recover. All I got to do is stand up, play it off like nothing happened, walk back down the hill. I'll go inside, clean myself off. As I get up to start walking, like I'm trying to push myself up, and my hand sinks into the mud, right? And I'm getting no traction. I managed to barely get my way to my feet, and I slip again as I'm like starting to go back down the hill. I slide down a couple feet. My backpack falls off. My instrument, all of them are covered in mud. I'm covered in mud. I'm very distraught and full of sadness, right? Why are you having this music playing? You will cease and desist, a6d. Okay? This is not cool. Anyway, I was very distraught and very upset, and I was like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? I'm going to climb back up the hill. That's what I'll do. I'll finish climbing up. Maybe I can save some pace if I actually end up making it worth it and get up there. Well, I tried to climb back up, and I slipped again and slid even further down the hill. Right? And at this time, I was covered in mud. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna chill here. Maybe I'll try and go down, like slide down the rest of the hill and go inside. Because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this will just, like, if I just pretend like nothing happened, everybody will forget about it, right? Like, I can still save face. That's what I thought. Well, of course, these college students scoops me up. One of them grabs my stuff and they carry me to the top of the hill like a rag doll. and they set me down right at the top, and I was so embarrassed. I've never wanted to die quite like that. I literally couldn't even. But anyway, and then I went inside and waited for my mom to come pick me up, and that's pretty much how it went down. Very embarrassing. I was not a happy potato.
Wow.
Wait, I didn't hear the story. Could you repeat it, please?
Yeah.
You're
Me
lagging.
either.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think your
You're
mic
getting
was
beat up
lagging at
again.
some point.
Anyway, all right, now that I told the story, somebody else has to go. Anyway, here, I'll tell you guys a scary situation. So, I once got lost in the woods, okay? And I may or may not have run into some dangerous people while I was in the woods. And I
This time
ended
it
up
was my
having
mom.
to run away and sneak away in time to avoid getting in serious pain. And
Thanks,
that's
Mom.
pretty much the end of it.
This is the
Did they
worst
have,
story I've
like-
ever heard.
When I was
You as a little boy.
When I was a little kid, I used to explore the woods near my house like a lot. But one day, me and a couple friends of mine, we went super, super, super far. Like out until we were literally nowhere we had been before. We ended up getting separated. I was on somebody else's property, okay? Like I was at least like 15 miles like from my house, like through the woods. Like I had very little idea where I was. But while I was on somebody else's property, they came out and they were carrying rifles, right? And they saw me and they thought that I was somebody who had been doing something to their land, and they thought that I was there to do that thing.
Why didn't you just
Um,
use your phone?
I didn't have a phone, okay?
How old are you?
I
This is the
know. I
nonsense.
just didn't have a phone. We didn't carry our phones in the woods. Leave me alone. If you
There
carry a
weren't cell
phone in the
phones back
woods,
then.
you'll lose it, and then you won't have a
Cell
phone.
phones-
Listen,
What is the
here's
worst thing? Being lost in the forest or losing a phone in the forest?
losing a phone in the forest. Phones are expensive. These two guys who saw us there, one of them went back to the house and he told the other guy to keep watch on me. I don't know if he was gonna like call the police or something else or whatever. But so the other guy was there and he told me not to leave. And then for some reason he started walking off. So I was like, okay. And I turned around and I ran into the woods and I could see them see me run. And for some reason, the guy who was closest to me didn't turn back and like try and stop me. He just kept walking towards the house. Anyway, I made it into the woods. I was running through the woods and I was worried that they were going to come in and like find me and like chase me. So I found a spot and I hid and I like covered myself with leaves and I just waited there. And then they did come in the woods and they looked around for a bit and then they went back up. After I was sure they were gone, I got up and I ran home basically. I ran all the way through the woods. I was so scared, you have no idea.